thanks for inviting me to be here, and thank you all for coming to share in this experience of, I'm going to share my personal story and just have an experience of compassion together, because compassion isn't something that we do in isolation, it's something that is all about connectedness. And so I thought before I start telling my story, we start with a little meditation on compassion. And as you see in this quote, compassion starts with ourselves. If we want to bring loving kindness and forgiveness and joy and love and creativity to the world, we have to give it to ourselves as well, because we can't give something that we don't have. So I just invite you to take some deep breaths, close your eyes. You've been caffeinated, now we're going to decaffeinate you. We're so used to, in our daily lives, running on this sympathetic system where we're in that fight or flight mode. Our world just throws so many things at us, but in meditation, lots of you probably meditate, we go into the parasympathetic state. We start to let our body rest, relax, and just feel the safety of being in our own body, being safe with our emotions, being safe with our own thoughts, just feeling comfortable with who we are. So this is a really simple meditation. Just feel your feet connected to the earth. The meditation is over. I'm going to sing a song to bring us out of it, so you can just relax. Bring your awareness to your abdomen, to your belly. Just let it soften. We're going to start with appreciation and gratitude. So this is an inherent component of compassion. So just start by feeling gratitude for this body, this mind, for all your organs, for all of you. Just start thanking yourself for all the things that you're grateful for about yourself. And then expanding that gratitude beyond this physical body and this mind and this heart to other people that we love, to our friends, to our co-workers. Just being grateful. Extending that gratitude beyond our limited circle, to our city, to our country, to our earth, to nature, just expanding it as far as it can go. And then moving up into the heart center, in the center of our chest. Feeling that soft space. And we just bring in that loving kindness, that forgiveness. We're often so hard on ourselves. Compassion starts with forgiving ourselves for all the mistakes that we make, for all the ways we've hurt and been hurt. We just start to cultivate a beautiful, soft, tender energy of forgiveness, letting go. Asking for forgiveness from those we've hurt, knowingly, unknowingly. And extending forgiveness to those who might have hurt us. Just as we want to be forgiven, let us forgive. This doesn't mean that we accept or we condone certain wrongful acts, but still, forgiveness sets us free. To the crown of the head. We bring in the energy of creativity, of guidance, of inspiration, of humility. Because to create amazing things, we need to let inspiration flow through us, and we need to be humble and be able to ask for help. So just that simple question, please guide me. Please help me, please inspire me. Let me surrender to that force, that universal force, that current that flows through all of us. Just asking for help with a specific issue, just generally, please guide me. Try be gentle on yourself. You're flying high, you're flying low. Round and round we go and go. And try go easy on yourself. Wings take time to grow and grow. Round and round we go and go, all with the flow. Try be gentle on yourself. Such a precious heart you have. You're such a beautiful soul. And try go easy on yourself. Such a precious gift you have to open each and every door, all with the flow. In this world where we're facing so many things all the time, how do we keep coming back to that space of stillness and peace and compassion when we're trying to create, when we're trying to be, when we're trying to live, when we're trying to relate? So my story that I'm going to share with you, we've all experienced loss and gain and joy and sadness. This is nothing unique to me, but I'm just sharing my experiences and how I try to find the peace within during, all these cycles that life inevitably brings us. So when I was at university, I was studying commerce law for 2 weeks, and then I changed to arts law, thinking, okay, I'm going to marry the art and the law, and that lasted maybe a year, a little bit longer. Then it became arts, then it just became nothing. So while I was at uni, I started my band, and then eventually I decided I just didn't want to be at uni because all I wanted to do was do music, and I just had to choose a path. And my parents said, finish your law degree, finish your degree, and then you have something to fall back on. And I said, well, if I need to have something to fall back on, then obviously I don't have faith in my path. So I had to take a leap and just follow what I wanted to do. So I had this band Gelberson, we signed with Virgin, and we toured around the world, and I think a newspaper article I saw a few years ago said we were once hip. Basically it was an amazing journey, but over the course of this journey I started getting more into meditation and yoga and qigong and all these different things, and relationships were a long relationship was dissipating, and I just started unraveling inside of myself, and I started realizing that this life wasn't sustainable for me, touring and drinking and just the whole quest wasn't really why I entered making music. I entered making music as a way to fulfill my soul and as a way to just share positivity and just inspiration and just the joy of creativity, and it all became about, as you get into that art as a business, it became about, a different trajectory. And so I started feeling very exposed on stage, I just started feeling like I was unraveling, but then I'm there standing on stage and I just don't want to be seen and I don't want to be exposed. So a friend of mine gave me a mantra on my iPod, and I was just listening to it over and over and over, and the meaning of it was, I surrender to the power in everything, I surrender to the divine, I surrender. So I decided to go to India, and in India I had this incredible experience of just, a rebirth, so to speak, where I just felt all the baggage and everything that I was carrying, all this weight that was on me, just sort of lifted, and I could find that place of peace inside of myself, and I could discover that actually there was a part that's in all of us that's untainted, that's indestructible. Call it the soul, call it consciousness, call it energy, call it the divine, whatever you want to call it. And I just felt refreshed to come back to Australia and get back in touch with the joy of making music, the joy of creativity, the innocence, the play. And so I started volunteering at different facilities, disabilities facilities, aged care, all sorts of different places, and just coming back to music for healing, I learnt about mantras and all different things, and how we're all made of sound and we're all made of vibration, and that frequency that we attune ourselves to changes the quality of our health, changes the quality of our emotional state, it changes the quality of our mental state, all these different things. So I just started, musicians do this anyway, they just tap into this transcendent vibration and bring songs and bring all these things into the world. But then as we get into the more subtle realms of frequency, we can look at how frequencies can really uplift us, how frequencies and songs and music and sound can make us feel nostalgic or emotional or sad. But then I started looking at this music that was just designed to make us feel connected to our essence. How to use sound to connect back to who we are. And this is my friend Steve, one of our volunteers, sharing didgeridoo healing at a place in Bellevue Hill. I'll get back to that. So as I got into mantra, I started singing at yoga schools, and I started looking for different ways to perform in environments that felt really conducive to the vibrations I was trying to create through music. And I was invited to go and sing at a retreat in Bali. And there I met a woman who I heard her sing, and I had this thought, oh, we're going to travel around the world playing music together. And so it's a bit of a weird thing to go up to somebody and say that. So I said to her, you're going to travel around the world making music. And she looked at me as if I was crazy, because she was a management consultant, and she was... And anyway, she was on her way to India, I was on my way to India, we had a few days together, and then we were apart for 3 months, came back and saw each other. In that time we wrote, songs to each other, and she discovered her innate musical ability, and she played flute before, and she reconnected with that. By the time we got back together, we got engaged within a week, and within 6 months we were touring around the world, sharing music and yoga and meditation and different things. So this was Joe. And one of the things that we really explored together was sharing music and yoga and meditation with different groups of people in underprivileged communities. So in Bali, in India, with kids in schools. This is in India, and this is a school in Bali. And we started realizing that we wanted to put together all the different things that we loved. I'd had a vision since the time I was volunteering in the music therapy space. I had a vision to create a charity that brings free music to people in need, because I just saw how valuable it was. And I saw a charity in America called Musicians on Call that goes into hospitals, and I volunteered there. And I was just inspired to create something like that in Australia. And Joe's love for yoga, we just thought we'd put it all together. So in 2014 we created A Sound Life, which is all about transforming lives through music, yoga and meditation. And I'd love to play you just a quick video that just shows what we do.
Volunteer with A Sound Life. It's so rewarding to be able to give back to the wider community in this way.
Yeah, we love it when A Sound Life comes in. It just makes the patients so happy. Everyone's clicking along. But it's not only the patients that benefit, it's the parents and the staff. The whole vibe on the ward changes. It's just fun, it's light. It's really hard to be serious when you guys are here.
Thank you for...
It has been the highlight of our week. The guys really love it. Their flexibility and their mobility has improved, their focus and concentration as well. And their parents have observed that when they go home, they appear to be more calm and relaxed.
May always be happy and free.
Thank you. So yeah, we started in 2014 in Sydney at Westmead Children's Hospital with one facility, bringing yoga for teenagers with adolescents with eating disorders, and then also music programs. And now we're in about 22 facilities, over 100 volunteers, and we're running daily programs. So it's been a huge growth for the organisation, and some of our beautiful volunteers are here today, so thank you. And really, yes, I'll share the next part of the journey because we don't have to go too much into this impact. But the tools of music, yoga, and meditation have been what's helped me in life, and we all have different things that help us. And so when we connect with what helps us and share it with others, then we share our gifts and our wisdom and our talents. So in 2015, Joe and I were teaching a yoga retreat in Bali, and we came back and we ran the World Yoga Day sunrise meditation, sun salute meditation at Bondi Beach. It was a freezing day. I don't know if anybody was there. It was probably the coldest day of the year. And shortly after that, Joe experienced some stomach pain. So we thought, okay, we've come back from Bali, it's a stomach bug or something like that. And then the further we delved into it, within a few weeks, we realized she had stage 4 stomach cancer, and she passed away 7 weeks later. So it's been that was just the loss and the grief and the intensity and the suddenness. It's been such a huge period in my life. This is a beautiful message from Joe. So follow your bliss, open your heart, live free from fear, love everyone and play in this world. So death is something we all face. And cancer, when Joe was diagnosed, it was like, this doesn't happen to us, it's happened to somebody else. But as we all are experiencing, this is something that happens to somebody we know, or ourselves, or it's becoming more and more frequent in this world where we're attacking nature, we're attacking ourselves, where we're living in disharmony with this beautiful creation that we've been given. It's just more and more of these incidences are happening. And so how do we deal with this? How do we deal with the stress? How do we deal with this? And how do we live compassionate lives in a world that seemingly is very greed focused and very, driven on just taking and taking and taking and striving my teacher in India always says, you know, the joy that we get from material things is very temporary, but the joy that we get from giving is permanent, because we can always go back to that good deed, like what we were talking about at the beginning of the session, and just it fills our hearts with joy. Every time we serve others, we feel good, we feel fulfilled, and the joy that we create in somebody else is the joy that we experience, because we're not separate. It's the same energy, the same interconnected spirit that lives in all of us. And so when Joe passed away, I really had to confront death in a new and major way. And it's something we don't talk too much about in our world, in India and other places. It's just a real part of life, and we look at the soul's journey and we're prepared for it. But here we're not really prepared for it. And what I felt from the experience and from my own experiences is that we're on a soul journey. You know, there's that statement that people always say, we're you know, human being, not a human doing. We're beings having a human experience. So it's, you know, understanding how we connect that spirit and that humanness and live in harmony with all the aspects of ourselves. So the yoga of equanimity, which has nothing to do with yoga, asana, or stretching or anything. It's just about looking at how life just throws us this happy, sad, gain, loss, this constant continuum. And can we find that middle point of peace, whatever it is that brings us peace, is such a huge part of it. So we had a vision for A Sound Life to create a sanctuary, a place, you know, that supports creativity, well-being, connection, and a place that supports sustainability and inspirational talks, etc. And we played in a dome in Uplift Festival, and so recently, this is kind of just a vision, a dream of an ultimate model. It's a beautiful space. But we've been donated this space, which is a geodesic dome. GPJ, an amazing events company, have donated us this space, which we're going to set up to create a place where we can bring people out of facilities and experience our programs, but also a space to support other creative people, other communities, other charities, just a hub for wellness, for goodness, for inspiration. So I know there's a lot of people in the creative industry here. If this is something that you would like to utilize or be a part of, or, you know, we need so much help to create it. It's a community effort, designers, anything. If you want to be involved, just come and see me afterwards or send us a message. So I'm just going to finish by saying where life throws at us all these different things. And a few months ago, earlier this year, I was in India again. I'd gone to Africa to set up our school in Tanzania, a music and yoga school. And this beautiful woman came to the village where I spent a lot of time in India with two beautiful kids. And I felt this connection, but I also felt, you know, I never thought I'd meet somebody again, another soulmate or anything. I wasn't looking for a relationship. And then this woman showed up. And I felt this intense connection. And I just allowed myself to open to it. And so now I find myself in a new relationship. I call it my Insta-fam, because she has two kids, two small kids. And so, you know, I met a beautiful woman called Emily and let love in again. And I just think life has such a perfect plan. We lose, we gain, we experience, you know, these relationships building, relationships dissipating. We experience so many different things. But if we continually surrender and open ourselves to the possibilities and just let ourselves experience whatever we need to experience, and be vulnerable and fragile and accepting of ourselves and all our faults. That to me is compassion. And so I have this quote from the Dalai Lama: if you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice compassion. And so compassion starts here. It starts with loving ourselves, with how we treat our body, with how we think. If we're constantly telling ourselves how crap we are, if we're constantly talking ourselves down, if we're constantly allowing worry and fear and anxiety and all these things to take over, we're not being compassionate to ourselves. So it involves changing our mental patterns, and it involves being tender and soft and hard and gentle with our hearts, because we've all experienced hurt and suffering and loss and all the different things that we've experienced. So to me, compassion starts here, and then once we have that, we can send it outwards. If we're fighting for a cause, no matter how good the cause is, if we're fighting for environmental protection or whatever it is, and we're fighting with anger, and we're fighting because we're angry about this, we're just creating more anger in the world. If we want to align ourselves with something that's beautiful and positive, we can speak out against all these horrible things that are happening in our world, all the destruction of the planet, all the unnecessary killing of innocent beings, all the poverty and everything. But we can still do it from a place of peace and love and compassion, because that's how real change is going to happen. So there's a prayer in Sanskrit. There's two Sanskrit mantras. One is Yad Bhavam Tat Bhavati. It means whatever we think about, we become. So if we think about the divine, or whatever you want to call it, if we think about consciousness, if we think about all the positive things, that's what we become. If we think about just this limited sense of self and all the unhelpful things, then that's what we become. So our thoughts create our reality. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. May all beings be happy and free. So I'd just like to finish with another song. Could you hear the guitar in the last song? Okay. The lyrics, the chorus to this song is Om Shanti. Shanti means peace. If you want to click, if you want to sing, you're welcome. It's very simple. Om Shanti Om. You're all creative people, so you're all singers. stars will spin but will remain. The earth will shake and the seas will soar. The world might end but will remain in Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Yeah. Okay. Question is how to manage. Did you say dupliciousness? Duplicity. Okay. The duplicity of life. How do you manage the craziness, being in the zone, and everything? I don't manage it. I try to surrender to it. Yeah, it's the challenge. It's the challenge of our time. It's a challenge probably of every time, but it's especially now. How do we stay calm and peaceful? And you know, when I go to India, it's very easy being in a space where your meals are taken care of and all you do is sit and meditate all day and just relax and just receive these, you know, positive vibrations. How do you bring that back here or wherever it is that you might find your sanctuary? For me, it's about just being open and raw and letting myself experience it all, and using practices. So for me, mantra is my main practice, just coming back to the practice that works for you, you know, coming back to the practice that works for me and taking time to meditate, go surfing, be in nature, do the things that reset me. Yeah. And also being gentle when I fall. You know, this morning getting up, driving for an hour to be here and just getting ready, and so just using the time in the car to just go, oh, I'm feeling a little bit, you know, my stomach's a bit crampy or whatever, I'm feeling a bit anxious, I'm feeling this, just going, okay, it's here. I'm not going to pretend it's not here. I'm not going to pretend this feeling isn't here. And just being okay with it. Oh, you got a CD. Do you have this one? Or you can choose this one or this one.
I'll come up and say hi.
Okay, you can come up and get it afterwards. Yeah.
Over the years, through experience, have you noticed how your decision-making process has changed, like through your journey?
Over the years, through my experience, have I noticed that my decision making process has changed through the journey? It's definitely changed a lot, because I think as we surrender to kind of flowing with the current and being more spontaneous and open, we're kind of, it doesn't look sensical from the way we're usually taught to make decisions. You know, when we listen to intuition and we listen within, it might seem totally contradictory or just, you know, it doesn't necessarily go with how we've been taught to logically plan and make decisions. Nature, the divine from my perspective, doesn't sit and plan and engineer everything, it just creates. When the yogis talk about manifestation, materialization, they call it sankalpa, intention. They place the intention in their deepest, you know, consciousness, and then things materialize. So for me, it's about going into that deep space and creating from that deep space and letting nature and the world and the universe reflect that back and help support me. Sometimes I feel really hopeless at making decisions because I just feel like I just want to be spontaneous and I want to be, you know, in the flow, and I have to commit to all these different things. So it's a balance. It's a juggle, but I just try to listen to my body, listen to read the signs around, and also not to force my will upon it. I find that, like, you know, with the Sound Life, we've had this vision for the sanctuary. we were in discussions, it was going to happen, and then something happened and it delayed it, and it's just been this whole flow, and it's just about going, okay, if this is meant to happen, I'm just going to let this happen through me rather than force it, and I'm going to work for it. I'm not going to just be like, oh, everything just has to happen and fall on my plate, but I'm not going to force something against the flow. Everybody knows how it feels when you just feel like you're just pushing against the current, and when you're just flowing with it, just things flow much better. It feels effortless, it feels easy, even the challenges feel easy because you just feel, yeah, I'm totally aligned with my purpose. Yeah. But yeah, I'm always looking for new and better ways to make decisions. So if anybody has good decision-making tools, you can get a CD if you come in. Yeah.
Wonderful to use. It's really nice if you use fake. It's beautiful, like the way you're so calm and zen. I personally am told it's very inspiring to get into that room. But I struggle sometimes, and it doesn't come as naturally. So I guess I was just wondering, has it always been as natural for you? Like, what did you have to get to do, like, to prepare yourself to be almost like in this flow in your mind?
Yeah. The question is about being in the flow and being zen and being calm and struggling to be that, and whether it's always been for me a natural thing and whether I'm always in it, which I'm not. If you'd have seen me yesterday in a car with 2 kids screaming. And so I feel that we have a natural reservoir inside of us of peace, and then we have all this patterning and layers covering it. And for some people, like for me, I've always been quite an emotional person, and I used to get, my pattern was to get overwhelmed, and if something got too stressful, it's kind of, the overwhelm would be, I wasn't like a fighter, but I would just sort of shut down a bit. And so I've had to learn to overcome certain responses or learnt responses or habitual patterns, and that's the practice of meditation, of yoga, of all our spiritual practices, to rewrite the patterning and to come back to the source, which is neutral, and let it overcome our patterning, and also to just observe our patterning, because some of it just is what it is, and so just that's the compassion for when I'm just feeling really calm, and compassion from when I'm feeling anxious and stressed and tense. So it comes back to that self-love and self-compassion, and taking the time when that happens to just honor it. And a lot of people think that's a selfish thing, but actually if we don't give ourselves that time, then how can we be available for other people, and how can we perform in our work, and how can we achieve if we just continually deny ourselves that time to just work through our own stuff? Yeah?
Have you had many people that have been really sort of resistant at all? You've had to sort of, convince them across the line, such as the senses that you're working with?
In which place? Like in what sense, resistance?
Well, any from the senses that you're working with, they've been sort of been easy to, have they come to you? Or have you met many individuals who've been really resistant to sort of change, and what's their journey been like?
Okay. So the question is about resistance in the places that we work, or the places that we service, and with certain individuals. So firstly, because we offer a free service, a lot of people are just willing to try it, so we say, oh, you get free music, yoga, meditation. They're like, okay, great, I'll try it. I don't even know what yoga is. Sounds good, it's free. So yeah, in different places, we go into very vulnerable environments. So like, say, when we do yoga in trauma situations, it's a very specific style of yoga and trauma-aware therapy that we bring that is different to just a yoga class that you would go to. So it's trying to meet people where they're at. And we've had lots of different situations where, I remember going into a youth crisis centre for our first yoga sort of music session, and it's with teenagers, and one girl just was like on her phone, on the couch while we're doing the yoga, but she stayed in the space. She could have left, but she stayed in the space, and other stuff was going around, and she just could see gradually she was coming into the space. So we've had amazing situations where people who are very resistant have opened to it, but we also have situations where you just, if people aren't ready, you can't force these things. So this work, spiritual work, compassion, all that stuff, it's an invitation. It's not something you force down people's throats. People change when they want to change, and all you can do is hold out your hand and say, here, I'm offering you something that worked for me, that brings me more peace. If it can help you, take it. And if you can't, then that's okay. Yeah. So we try not to push. But sometimes resistance also is just the fear that people have of changing, the fear that people have of letting go. And if you can stay present to that resistance and not let it overcome you, then it's also part of the invitation. And that being present just allows people to come into the space and engage and let down that wall and that. How are we going? Finish?
Oh, you know what? One last.
Sorry. Okay. Oh. Well, okay. Do we get any government funding for a sound life? We haven't yet. And have we tried? Trying to think of the grants we've applied for. We've done some of those community grants, like Sydney City Council grants, which we didn't get. But it'd be great to get government funding, but we haven't really. At the moment, we've had some private foundations support us, and then just our own events. But if you work for the government, you have your checkbook.
It's kind of quick. It's quick.
Too quick.
What's your favorite place?
My favourite place in India is where I go in the village. It's called Narayani Pedam. It's in Vellore. It's near 2 hours from Chennai. It's just a small village. It's where my teacher is, and it's where I've spent the last 10 years. And for me, it's a magical place. But there's so many amazing places in India. Sorry.
Mine was, you said you started in arts law and went to music.
Yeah.
And I guess, through that business prism, you're like an outlier. So, what's your take on people who stay in jobs that just aren't fulfilling?
What's my take on people who stay in jobs that aren't fulfilling? Anybody here in an unfulfilling job? Well, everyone's fulfilled, so there's no issue. I think every job's going to have its challenges. It's not about staying in a certain system or working outside of a system. It's just about, they say, love what you do or do what you love. Either way, we have to find goodness in what we do. If something's totally just not working for you, and you just feel you're so out of alignment with your purpose and your passion, then it's worth questioning. But I just think it doesn't matter what industry, what profession we're in, we all have the capacity to do great things with any profession, anything we do, and to find peace in it and enjoy it and love it and make it meaningful. So it's just about being in alignment with what you do. And if you do work, say, in a company and the culture doesn't work for you and you want to change that culture, or you want to find a company that culture works for you, this is our time to change the things we want to improve upon and make a difference. So it's up to each of us to find what we love, and also to bring harmony to our surroundings and be the change, be the peace, be the love, Thank you so much.